Right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. Now we're going to look at last night's question time from Halifax. On the panel there was the Conservative MP Liz Truss, Labour MP Caroline Flint, Richard Walker's Managing Director of the frozen food chain Iceland, comedian and former advisor to Ed Miliband Ayesha Hazarika, and political editor of the Sun newspaper Tom Newton. Now they are discussing the current Brexit situation, deal or no deal Brexits and second referendums. Let's check it out.
Sarah Hodgson.
Will we have left the EU before Jeremy Corbyn finally makes a decision on the Labour Party Brexit strategy?
Well, certainly rather amusingly put, that question, Sarah. So, Caroline, where are we with, you know, you've got John McDonnell describing Labour's Brexit position as a slow-moving car crash. You have very vocally supported and campaigned to leave. Is it a slow-moving car crash? Where is Labour on this?
Well, I actually campaigned to remain and voted remain in the referendum, but I accepted the result. And the Labour Party, after the referendum, said we respect the outcome and we will work for the best Brexit deal. That was our manifesto commitment in 2017. We said the British people have settled the matter. That's what we're going to work for. And I believe that's where we should be today. But I think...
can I ask you, just out of interest, since you did vote Remain originally, is that because you've changed your mind on the subject, or is it because you feel, because your constituency voted to leave, that that's the position you should take?
It's because we had a referendum, and whichever way it went, I think we should respect the outcome of the referendum. To be honest, it seriously is not that complicated, but where I differ with those who were voting leave and some of the hardline brexiteers is the idea that we can literally leave without a deal, I think is incredibly dangerous. So I have discussions with Remain voters in my constituency who want a stop Brexit referendum, and I explain my position on that. But I equally have conversations with people who voted leave who feel frustrated by the process and feel we should leave without a deal, and I have conversations with them about why I think that's not the best way forward. Unfortunately... But
you have also said that if we got to the point where no deal was the only option being presented, you would support
No, what
it.
I said was that if we get pushed, if you like, channelled into a situation where Parliament is being asked to revoke Article 50, which would basically put a stop on us leaving the European Union, I will not vote to revoke Article 50. But what has happened in Parliament, we've had hardliners on both sides of this argument for whom no deal was ever going to be good enough. And between them, they've done everything they can to frustrate that deal. And what I won't have, Fiona, is being bullied and blackmailed into stopping Brexit because others won't get a deal and let us move on. I won't do that.
Tom, let me just remind you of the question. The question is actually about Jeremy Corbyn. Will we have left the EU before Jeremy Corbyn finally makes a decision on the Labour Party Brexit strategy?
Well, I think the simple answer to the question is no, we won't have left the EU by that stage, because Jeremy Corbyn, in my view, as a commentator and analyst, won't decide Labour Party's Brexit policy. He'll have it decided for him. The membership are overwhelmingly in favour of Remain, certainly a second referendum, probably Remain too. Shadow Cabinet are in outright revolt. Caroline is in a minority in the Parliamentary Labour Party, and I think if he doesn't change his party's policy, he's going to get run over. Now, I don't necessarily agree or disagree with him. I do, and I don't think you'll hear many people from the Sun say this too often, have some sympathy for Jeremy Corbyn on this. I'll tell you why.
Have you put that in the pages of the newspaper?
Well, I think
If you had missed it.
No, I'm not going totally rogue. I'll tell you why. Jeremy Corbyn has tried reasonably hard, whether you agree or not, over the last 2 or 3 years, to try and keep a unifying line, which is, we voted for this thing, we might not personally want it, but we need to all go in the same place together. He is trying to hog or stay on the middle ground. Yeah. Now, Britain, and we saw the European election results, is polarising. There's this giant crevasse opening up where the middle ground used to be, the Conservative Party used to be there. Jeremy Corbyn hasn't always been there, but he's certainly trying to put his party there on Brexit. He's in a very lonely placement because half the country is polarising towards Remain, the other half party is polarising towards Leave, and there's no space left for it. The problem with it, the Tory party's got exactly the same problem. They are split right down the middle by this thing. Most of the Tory party do want to leave the EU, but they can't decide how. So you have got, basically, political parties shattering in two, both of them, opening up the prospect of deeply unstable political parties and politics, I have to say, for an awful long time to come.
I can just imagine if anyone's watching from sort of Labour head office saying, you'll never guess what happened on Question. We had this bloke on from The Sun. And he was supporting Jeremy Corbyn, or expressing sympathy for his position. Yes, the man at the back.
A better way of putting it.
So the first question is regarding Jeremy Corbyn and the position of the Labour Party on Brexit. The first to answer the question is the Labour MP Caroline Flint, who points out the basic fact that the country voted to leave in 2016 and this needs to be respected, which is of course the manifesto the Labour Party had in the last election. So Jeremy Corbyn is sticking to that because he knows the leavers among Labour will defect to the Brexit Party pretty sharpish and put Labour in real trouble. Now here we have a rarity in the Labour Party, someone who is ready to defend democracy, even if it is not what she wanted. She admits to being a Remainer, but has accepted the result and by extension became a Brexiteer. A soft one, but still a Brexiteer. Host Fiona Bruce is herself shocked to hear a Labour MP standing up for democracy and attempts to insinuate the Labour MP only supports Brexit because her constituents voted to leave, which she shoots down straight away saying we had a referendum, the choice was leave, we have to respect that, it's not that difficult, which is correct. And rightly the audience applauded, as did I the first time I heard it. It is really simple in the end, we voted to leave and the parliamentary parties agreed to honour it. Of course this BBC spunk trumpet Fiona Bruce won't like that. Now I do have an issue with her complaint that Parliament frustrated Theresa the EU appeaser's deal to leave the EU. Both parties were 100% correct to reject that so-called deal. It was a surrender document, not a deal. I don't consider us becoming the vassal state of the EU a deal. That's like losing a war and suing for peace with unconditional surrender. We are not the fucking French. We are British. We do not surrender our islands to any country. Now during the Second World War we held back the fascist scum known as the National Socialist German Workers' Party for years after they had wiped out our European neighbours in short order. We did such a great job defending our islands they had no hope of invading us. Then we crushed them with our Commonwealth, American and Russian allies. Why would we surrender now? Now we then hear from the shitweeds editor of the Sun newspaper, who thinks as I do that Corbyn is living on borrowed time and the debt is due to be paid soon. His party wants to move to an outright anti-democratic Marxist party. Now I think he would rather be sly about his communist ambitions until he gets into power, as he knows the Marxist ideology being spouted by his hard left party is not going to ring true with the average voter, who knows Marxism is one of the worst systems known to human history.
Since the 2016 election, every politician said they will respect the result. Since after the 26th referendum, all of the politicians have became two-faced, didn't listen what the voters said. All the politicians have delayed Brexit. I understand Theresa May has somewhat to blame with her leadership with Brexit. And with politicians that decide to leave the party, for example, and Salisbury, for example, left the party to join this new so-called Change UK independent group, surely those politicians who've been voted who've been voted for that party and have decided to change parties, surely that should trigger a by-election, but at the same time, surely the politicians have shot their foot on with Brexit.
They've shot themselves in the foot. Woman here in the red top.
We had no idea what we were voting for in the last referendum. A lot of the people who voted to get out of Europe voted on lies. You know, for instance, the Boris National Health Service lie, we're in a completely different place now, and we need to go back to the people.
The man just behind you.
I don't really think we do need to go back to the people. You can't have another vote until we've carried out what the people voted for in the first place. I voted to remain, because I would now vote to leave. What did the people vote for? To leave.
Well, Liz, obviously...
Sorry, I had to stop that there. It's good to hear that Ramoning woman getting booed. Remain lost, love. Just accept it. We live in a democracy. But wow, that first guy speaking was fucking painful. Just spit it out, son. No one is going to bite you. Now, the soy boy is right. The MPs have fucked it all up. They don't know their arsehole from their earhole when it comes to Brexit, and literally only serve themselves. He says some of it is Theresa May's fault, when actually most of it goes down to her. She brought the surrender document to Parliament 3 times and got it rejected 3 times. She took no deal off the table and tried to delay Brexit. She was a Remainer after all. The legality of her delay in Brexit is currently questionable at best. Now, she holds a heavy responsibility in the Brexit mess, and this guy seems to be forgetting that. Now, the second part of his question is regarding the political prostitutes of the world, who bounce from party to party, but retain their MP seat they won at their original party. He thinks they should be forced to hold a by-election, which I couldn't agree more with. Take a look at Chuka the Hooker Amuna. In just 4 short months, he has been a Labour MP, a Change UK MP, and a Lib Dem MP, with no by-election to see if the Labour voters in Streatham want to be represented by a Liberal Democrat MP now. By-elections should be mandatory in these situations, even if you're an independent MP. Now, let's hear from the panel, but they don't actually address the political prostitute question, so that's why I just addressed it.
This is something that you've been saying for some time now.
Yes.
I just want to ask, because the makers of Vauxhall Astra have said today that they will only build the new model at Ellesmere Port if the government secures a good Brexit deal. I just wonder if that made you rethink the wisdom of keeping no deal on the table, or thinking that was an acceptable option.
Keeping no deal on the table will help us secure a Brexit deal. The reason that we haven't yet got there is that we've delayed.
But does it
we've
not make you
extended
think...
and we've created this period of limbo, which is actually hurting businesses
But nonetheless, you are
because they're not
prepared-
certain about the future.
You are prepared to go for no deal if you can't get the deal that you want. And when you hear what the makers of Vauxhall Astra are saying, does that not give you pause?
What I think is that we need to deliver on this. We're in a state of limbo. We've had business investment figures this week that aren't good because a lot of companies don't know what the future looks like. We need a deadline so that we can secure a better deal. Now, I don't think there's a big chance of no deal, but we do need to keep it on the table. We can't just say we're going to delay this and delay this and delay this. We're already 3 years in, Fiona. You know, people voted for this 3 years ago, and I think it's shameful that there are people in Parliament creating shenanigans, threatening to do things like vote against estimates on education spending, just to try and frustrate what people voted for 3 years ago. I think that's a huge problem. I agree with Caroline. Parliament, you know, should respect the will of the people. We need to get on and deliver this.
But how is that consistent with the suggestion made by Boris Johnson this evening at Hustings in the south of England, that he will keep suspending Parliament on the table? If you're criticising people for wanting to frustrate Parliament by withholding spending plans, isn't that hypocritical if Boris Johnson is saying he's prepared to suspend Parliament altogether?
Fiona, he doesn't want to do that.
Well, we don't want to do it. I'm not saying he wants to do it, but he's keeping it on the table.
I hate these archaic processes. I wish Parliament would get on with voting what it's meant to be voting on. The fact is that Parliament voted to leave already. It voted to trigger Article 50. Article 50 ends with us leaving. The default option is we leave on the 31st of October. I don't want Parliament fiddling around with it. I don't want Parliament interfering with things like the estimates vote on education spending to try and stop this happening.
Or presumably suspending Parliament. You wouldn't want that either.
I don't want that.
Despite
of course
what
I
Boris Johnson says
don't. I don't want
okay.
that. Boris doesn't want that either. But I think it's very difficult.
He's not ruling it out.
It's
okay.
very difficult at this point in time to, you know, his aim, his promise is to leave by the 31st of October. And I think the country needs it. I think the idea that we can have a second vote and all the division opened up again and people feeling that their vote hadn't been respected and trusted in the first place would be a disaster for British democracy and British trust, but also a disaster for our economy, just keeping this limbo going.
As a businessman, Richard, does this cheer you, the conversation we're having
Sarah,
here?
I feel like we've spent the last 3 years watching the cars go very, very slowly around the Scale Electrics track, and I'm really worried we're going to have to watch them do another lap. And that's my concern about this. Look, I voted to leave because I believed in the opportunities that Brexit might give us. But it's become patently clear to me that parliamentarians are unable, or indeed unwilling, to actually put party politics aside, career ambition, and ideology, and actually compromise. They had their chance 3 times to lead us out of the darkness and to stop this paralysis, but they failed, and it's appalling. The opportunity cost of Brexit, in my eyes, is now unacceptable. I care way more about runaway knife crime with serious incidents against my staff every single day. I care way more about universal health credit, with some of my customers struggling with monthly cash flows. Apparently, there's a climate emergency, according to Parliament, and yet the Environment Bill, which has been drafted since before Christmas, has just been put on ice. I even care more about insect decline than I do about Brexit. So, to my mind, we need to stop this paralysis. We need to break out of it, because ultimately the government are not governing, and they must do so. So, my view is that now we know what the 2 choices are. That's the stone-cold reality, is it's either no deal or no Brexit, because there is no other magical Brexit deal out there that can be had just with a bit more charisma. So I think, on that basis, at least the choices are clear. We should go back to the people and ask them. We started it with a referendum. I think we should probably finish it with a referendum.
Ayesha, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I absolutely do agree with that. And to go back to the lady Sarah's questions, I mean, I have been dismayed as a Labour Party member for so many years, watching the Labour Party become the Vicky Pollard, yeah but no, but yeah but no, but yeah but no. I mean, it's ridiculous. We've had more positions in the Kama Sutra. Now, I know that's a horror. Sorry, don't want you to think of our shadow cabinet, the Kama Sutra. I do apologise for that. But it is absolutely ridiculous. And Richard is absolutely correct. As time has gone on, the longer Theresa May dithered over Brexit and caused delay, both sides have hardened their position. The choice is back to the binary. You're either going for a no-deal Brexit now, or it's about revoking Article 50 and staying. And I'm afraid for the Labour Party, I can't believe that we're in a position where my party, a socialist, internationalist, left-wing party, is on the same side of Brexit as people like Nigel Farage and Boris Johnson. And politics is about difficult decisions. And this is not easy. It's very, very difficult, Brexit. But it's about a strong choice. And I don't know how Jeremy Corbyn can support something which will destroy our economy, cost jobs, hammer public services and divide this country even more. What left-leaning socialist progressive person would want that?
What left-leaning socialist progressive person would want that, Caroline?
Well, it's quite interesting on the voting because, of course, a lot of the Parliamentary Labour Party have walked through the chamber with Boris and Jacob Rees-Mogg against a deal. I think it's created strange bedfellows, if I may say, this whole process. I believe that what we've got going on at the moment, going back to what Tom said earlier about the tax propositions, is we've got a pitch going to the Conservative Party faithful, and it's a sort of fantasy Brexit. Whoever becomes leader... hang on.
I was asking you to answer...
Oh, well,
we talked about that.
OK.
I was asking you to answer Ayesha's point.
OK. Well, I think in terms of being progressive, I think being progressive is being a Democrat, first and foremost. 2, I think that actually in trying to secure what you're asking for, Ayesha, which is actually an orderly Brexit that makes a close relationship with the European Union but allows in different ways for us to chart our own future and maybe address some of those things that we seem to ignore whilst we remember the European Union. That is about being a progressive. Yes, it can happen. It can happen. It can happen if people are prepared to abide by the democratic decision and seek a deal. Because the detail of our relationship going forward is actually in the next stage. And if you're going to have a second referendum, I don't think it should be about whether we remain. It should be on the basis of deal or no deal, because the decision to leave has actually been made. It should be deal or no deal.
Let me come back to you. Very the choice is coming back to the people very soon, because I think there will be a general election. I think our next Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, is going to push us to a no deal. I think that will not be supported in Parliament. I think there's going to be a general election, and everybody in this audience knows it is going to be a de facto second referendum. It's going to be a Brexit referendum with 2 very clear choices. Either a WTO Brexit, a hard Brexit, or revoking Article 50. And the Labour Party is going to have to pick a side. And I'll tell you something, based on the last set of Euro elections, the Labour Party is going to get hammered at the ballot box.
By the
if
Brexit
it doesn't,
Party.
No, we are hemorrhaging more people
that's
to
not
the
true.
Liberal Democrats.
That's
That
not
is
true.
what was seen at the last set of elections. And let me tell you this story from Scotland.
Ayesha, you know when I said briefly?
Sorry.
I did mean
but
it.
When
So you've got about 10
when
seconds.
people voted, right, we shouldn't take our votes for granted, Caroline. In
I have never
Scotland,
taken it for
when
granted.
people voted against us in the SNP independence referendum, they never came back to us, and we should really think about that hard
But
as a
the
Labour
polls
Party.
show that actually we could lose up to 50 seats across the Midlands and North of England to the Brexit Party because we will lose those heartland working class voters. And what is the Labour Party for if it doesn't represent that
The
voice?
Labour Party is for the whole of the United Kingdom.
I'm going to move on.
So, the BBC host is desperate to push the narrative that no-deal Brexit is bad. She constantly puts forward that one car manufacturer won't build cars here if we go no-deal. So fucking what, you dozy cumbucket? The people voted to leave. A likely foreign-owned business decision should not be used to ignore the public's vote. What a disgrace this woman really is. The Tory MP is right. No deal has to be on the table to get a deal. Even though I think that ship has sailed long ago, I doubt we will get a Brexit deal anymore, and especially not one that anyone's going to be happy with after all the bullshit the Tory government has put us through in the last 3 years. Now, the whole Parliament has let us down equally, but the Tory party obviously has the responsibility there in government. Theresa May fucked it up. She does point out that there is currently MPs in Parliament who intend to stop Brexit by preventing budgets from random social services like education from getting through. So much for these Remainers caring about the people and being the progressive moral Puritans they think they are. I thought the Remaining left was dedicated to helping people, not depriving them of education services because their political ideology wants to block the democratic decision of the people. It is a disgraceful thing to even consider. It seems Fiona has an issue with people who think that no deal should still be on the table, even if they don't want it, because they understand that to get a deal, you need no deal. It's like the same with shutting down Parliament to fulfil the will of the British people. If that has to be done, then it has to be done. Her ideology does not let her understand basic English when it goes against her narrative, though. We then heard from the manager of the Iceland food chain. He is a leaver, he says, but he seems to think the only options are no deal or no Brexit, which is completely wrong. This idiot has forgot that no Brexit stopped being an option the moment the country voted to leave, and was reinforced when the main political parties won their seats in Parliament on the manifesto claims of honouring that vote. Cancelling Brexit is not even an option, and it has not been since 2016. But no, this tit wants a second referendum on leaving the EU or staying in. That is a secret Ramoning soy boy, if you ask me, not a Leave voter. Now we then hear from the communist spunk trumpet Ayesha, where she spouts the exact same shit the Iceland manager has just said about needing a new referendum to revoke Article 50. You two can have a new referendum when the first one is complete. Oh, Article 50 won't mean shit then, will it? Unlucky. Now she is delusional when she claims the Labour Party is on the same side as Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage. No, your party manifesto committed to upholding democracy. Most of your party wants to ignore that promise and go full communism and ignore the will of the people because you think you know what's best for everyone. Because that's what Marxist fuckpigs like you do. You don't care about other people's opinions. Your ideology is always right. I mean, she can't help but promote her socialist regressive left-wing ideology while throwing out the usual Project Fear nonsense about how the country will be a disaster if we leave the EU. The Democratic Labour MP Caroline Flint, now that's something you won't hear me say very often, does well to destroy Ayesha's bullshit claims that no left-leaning person should want Brexit, with the undeniable fact that it's the correct democratic thing to do. Caroline goes on to say that the only referendum that should be considered is the question behind deal or no deal. But my response to that is now it's too late. You can't get a deal now, I don't think. While I have no direct issues with the actual question being asked, it should have been done years ago if you wanted to ask that question. As it stands now, no deal can be done. There can be no more delays. The Ramoning fuckpig goes on to claim there will be a general election soon, which, as I have said before, I think a no-confidence vote will fail, so there won't be one unless Boris calls a snap election for some reason this year. If Boris fails to deliver Brexit on time, then I would say a general election will happen, but before then I don't think there is much chance. The Labour MP is right that the seats will be lost to the Brexit Party if Labour go to a full-on anti-democratic Remain position. So I'm going to end the video there, guys. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. It's yet another biased panel, obviously, from the BBC. We got 4-2 in both gender and Brexit stance. Nothing new there, I suppose. Now don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video as it helps the channel a lot with the YouTube algorithm, and I will see you all in the next one.